Yo, back before we were all quarantined in our homes,
we got to chop it up in the studio with best-selling author Malcolm Gladwell, the homie.
Yeah, but instead of just rolling the interview, we wanted to give you something really special.
So we had our friends at Cartoono work their magic on the footage. Enjoy. Malcolm, you not trying to get right with us, or you good? It's a little too early for...
Somebody has to be sensible.
That is true. That is true. That's Are you saying that's not sensible right there? I'll take your word for it.
Well, how about like laying off the rum in the middle of the workday? That would be one.
Okay, all right, okay. Gotta check if someone's really Jamaican. I don't have many things in my life, but when Malcolm Gladwell tells you to stop drinking, I'm gonna listen. You said you've been on that bottle for 10,000 hours.
Is that rum?
Yes. It is
Dominican rum.
Dominican aged rum.
That's just beer.
That's just a regular Pilsner, you know what I'm saying?
But you Jamaican, you drink a little rain.
Well, he's got to go back to his like day job after this.
One of them. I have 3 jobs, man. As a child, I saw that. And it was funny, because I was like, oh my God, like Jamaicans on TV, this is wild. And I was like, wow, do we really have a lot of jobs? Like, and then 5 years later, when I had 6 jobs at the age of 7, you know, it was like, pretty true. Now you're a very highbrow person, very intellectual. When you start slumming, when it's time for Malcolm to just chill, what is the dumbest thing you do, Malcolm? You ever throw on yoga pants and watch 90 Day Fiancé? Do you go to the butcher and like order oxtail and then complain it's too bony?
No.
Go to Jamaican restaurant after 11 just to hear them say, when I have that?
First of all, that is a stereotype.
So, yeah,
also, it's true.
Yeah, I feel like I'm trapped between the 2 warring factions of the Bronx right now. Like Dominicans and Jamaicans are going at each other.
That's pretty.
We're battling for West Indian supremacy.
People always say that strangers in New York, that New Yorkers are rude, right? Outsiders. It's not true. We're so terrified of each other that we're super polite.
That's true.
We're way nicer than...
And we're very direct.
You push somebody on the subway, like, or something happens on the subway, 9 times out of 10. Sorry. I'm not packing.
Pardon me, Duke. Depending on where you're from, you know what I'm saying? If you're from Brooklyn, pardon me, my man.
Why should we talk to strangers? As a New Yorker, that terrifies me.
Because just that we should be aware of how bad we are at it. And that most of our first impressions about people are probably wrong.
What's a better strategy to kind of like read somebody as opposed to using their face?
Is to, well, you know what they say, there's all these famous studies where we ask you to tell whether someone's lying. And if you close your eyes and just listen and don't watch them, you'll do a better job, right? So if, you know, one useful strategy is to start getting rid of certain kinds of information that only screws you up.
Stop looking at people's faces.
Listen to the words.
All right, close your eyes, both of you. I don't have a secret family.
That's a lie.
Damn, it works.
We spend a lot of time interpreting people's facial expressions, and your facial expressions turn out to be an incredibly poor indicator of how you feel. Lots of times when we're happy, we don't look happy, and lots of times when we're angry, we don't look angry. And you know, every time, this is my favorite thing, every time there's like a high-profile case where some guy is being accused of some terrible crime, and then it'll come to sentencing or come to the jury, and the jury will say, oh, you're guilty, and they'll give him 50 years, and they'll say, he didn't look remorseful. What does remorseful look like? It's the craziest notion. And I may be so deeply ashamed of what I've done that I just keep a poker face. Maybe that's my cultural tradition. I tell the story in my book about my dad, who was someone who never showed fear.
Right.
And one time my parents were in Jamaica, right? Which, as you and I both know, is a lovely place.
A lovely place.
Where our parents come from. They're coming, here's my mother's scream. He's in the shower. He comes out of the shower, he's naked, 75 years old. And he sees like a very, very large Jamaican man with a machete to my mother's throat. And my father looks at him, just points at him and goes, get out now. Guy leaves. Now, he leaves because he's terrified of my dad, which is sort of ridiculous because my dad's 75. But my father who was terrified himself in that moment, never showed fear on his face.
He also had his dick out. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he was also someone else.
If you have your dick out and somebody says leave right now.
That's a game changer. That's a game changer.